Welcome to the special guest host series of the Trauma Therapist Podcast, where I'm going to be handing over the mic to some incredible guest hosts. In each episode, you'll hear fresh perspectives and unique insights to inform and inspire you, and all the while, keeping the heart of this podcast alive. So sit back and enjoy.
Hello. My name is Donna Jenson, founder of Time to Tell, coming to you from Western Massachusetts. I'm delighted to be here as part of the guest host series. With me is Myung and John Pratt, both members of the Time to Tell writing circles for survivors of sexual trauma. Having led these circles since 2008, I firmly believe writing is medicine. Our circles meet twice a month online to write together and give each other positive feedback about our writing. To start, we each light a candle to bring a flame into our writing space, then listen to a singing bowl ring us into silence. We do a mindful exercise midway to reground ourselves. I read a poem or prose to ignite the writing, which we do twice within our 2 hours together in community. We're going to give you a taste of our process today by reading something we've each written and show you how we respond to each other. So, Rhys and John, would you introduce yourselves and tell us, why do you write? And John, why don't you go first?
Sure. So hello from me as well. I'm John, he, him, from Boston. I've been with Time to Tell for maybe 2 years, maybe a little more. And at Time to Tell, I discovered that I enjoy writing. Before that, I would write for business, but writing gives me freedom. I read somewhere that writing poetry gives you freedom from words. So I find the freedom to write what needs to be told without having to stick to any presumptions or any structure. It's just total freedom. So it's wonderful.
Thanks, John. And Rhys, welcome.
Thanks, Donna. Hey, John. My name is Rhys. I use she, her pronouns. I'm based in the Bay Area, California. I'm a traditional Chinese medicine apprentice, a mind-body coach, a consultant for nonprofits. And I started writing as young as I can remember. Writing was my sanctuary. It was my safe place. And it's really beautiful to see my writing evolve. It's just a beautiful portal into my own growth trajectory and healing.
Well, thank you, Rhys. And I'll just say a little bit about, I've been writing since the 1970s, which is a long time ago. I was in my 20s when I started writing, journaling, really. And after I was doing some therapy around my incest, I started writing right after a session of therapy, and I suddenly realized I was pouring myself out in a way I never had before. And I just kept going and found myself weeping over my words, but feeling better for it. So that's how this whole project got started, and that's a long time ago. So, without further ado, why don't we read our writing to you, and you can get a taste of what we do in our Time to Tell circles. And Rhys, you're going to start first. Okay.
I've noticed something. I won't let myself take a walk for fun unless I need to get groceries. I won't start my paint by numbers kit unless I can play a podcast in the background. I won't let myself rest unless I've crossed something off my to-do list. I live in rigid structures of fear that confine me. My Google Calendar controls me. My life has become a game of Tetris where I fit events into picture-perfect squares of 1-hour interval blocks. And on the surface, I seem organized and reliable, trustworthy. After all, I'm a type A eldest daughter of immigrants who has learned to survive by treading water in the deep side of the pool. My identity has been formulated by how useful I can be to others and how efficiently I can do these things. I reached the end of the road. I'm tired of using efficiency to prevent myself from experiencing pleasure. I'm building myself up to have wants and desires. I'm allowing myself to be human. It's time I learned to swim in the shallow end of the pool where my feet can touch the ground and I can feel the sun kiss my cheeks. I used to see myself as a stagnant object that only acts when someone exerts their own force onto me. But now I'm learning to see myself as my own object in motion that exerts my own force. I am not a wallflower, but a budding plant in the garden of my life. I am the center of my universe and can make quantum leaps in my own nonlinear growth.
Oh, thank you, Riss. That was beautiful. John, what stayed with you from this piece?
I felt it was a beautiful piece. I could relate to a lot. The readers looking at herself from the outside, the narrator, being able to observe oneself from the outside. This it takes a skill and a lot of experience and a lot of work on ourselves to be able to do that. What I really liked, I liked the imagery of the pool. I liked the object that is stagnant and is waiting for someone else to exert force on it in order to move. And I could relate a lot to that. What I really loved was the realization at the end that, yeah, I learned to exert my own force on myself. I'm not waiting for anyone else. That was a message of hope that someone can do that. Quantum, so physics, but the physics that are not physics, and I'm not linear anymore, and I do whatever I want. It was a beautiful piece. Lots of hope. I could relate to a lot of it. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks, John. So, Riss, so much stayed with me. I just want to say, first of all, the whole piece shows a survivor's growth and awareness of the growth. You know, starting with, I noticed something. What really jumped out to me was first being the daughter of immigrants that learned to survive by treading water in the deep side of the pool, and then going and growing to swimming to the shallow end of the pool where my feet can touch the ground and it can kiss my cheeks. It gave me such a chill. I loved it. Thank you so much, Riss.
Thank you for listening.
All right. So, John, we'll have you read.
Okay. For those of us who were touched by evil, who someone tried to wipe us out by what some people call crime, and yet some others do not. Those of us who perhaps looked into the face of the abyss, and then we found the strength to look away, to break the chain. Nonetheless, the darkness follows us as we continue dragging that chain, constant reminders of who we might have been, or perhaps who we hardly are. For those of us committed to an insatiable discourse with both fear and evil, the dark, our dark, the one that touched us, committed us to a dialogue for eternity, but also to the wisdom that radiates from it. For by breathing the foul breath of dark, by surviving the freezing, thunderous nights in the mountains, we learn to endure. And we learn to find the beauty that lies in the opposites. In evil hides the sacred, in dark hides the sparkle, in night hides the twinkling star. It is better to live this way than the opposite. We found the light in the darkness, and so don't need dark to find us in our brightness. Let us live with our companions, the wolves of the mountains, the society of weirdos, the black sheep. It is better this way.
Oh, thank you, John. Riss, what stayed with you from this narrator?
Yeah, there were two main things that stayed with me. The first one was those of us who perhaps looked into the face of abyss to break the chain. I could really visualize that, like looking into a deep void, almost like a black hole, and unflinchingly just being like, I am not going to quiver. I'm not going to back down. And that ties to the other thing that stayed with me, where you wrote, we found the light in the darkness, and so we don't need the dark to find us in our brightness. Yeah. Thanks, John.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you're such a poet. This narrator is such a poet. The metaphors are just so wonderful. The freezing, thunderous nights in the mountains, the beauty that lies in the opposites. But I really, the chain, we continue dragging that chain. It's a constant reminder of perhaps who we partly are. That just resonated so deeply with me. And I felt brought to a higher place when, at the ending, when the narrator said, let us live with our companions. What a wonderful directive. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you for the feedback.
All right, I'll read. This one's called The Vice. Time was I couldn't find words for how I felt or what I'd been through. When I didn't even know I could search for words. All I had was silence and being silenced. My father's command, whispered in my right ear, you tell anyone and I'll kill you, lodged itself in the back of my skull on top of my spinal cord, perfectly positioned to send the message up to my brain and down through my spine to permeate my nervous system. Until I purged it, until I replaced it with the words, telling is healing. His command was a vice on my spirit. My healing opened the vice one turn at a time. Muscles had to be built up to grab hold of the bar at the side of the vice. Twisting a quarter turn to the right took weeks to perform. It took years to loosen the vice enough for my voice to slip out that mighty. It took years to loosen the vice enough for my voice to slip out of that mighty grip. First, she just flopped down on my chest cavity, poor voice, flat as a pancake. She stayed there a long time. Gradually, one of her edges nudged onto the left ventricle of my heart. She'd been hearing my heart beating, but now she could feel my heart beating. Being released from the vice was a miracle. Not only was my voice free, she was also being shown what it meant to feel alive. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. And that beat promised to feed her forever. So what stayed with you from my writing? Riss?
I loved how the narrator used a lot of words that related to the body, like the chest cavity, the nervous system, the spine. I think it really speaks to how trauma is stored in the body too. And I love how the narrator didn't have to say that, and they just captured it in their writing so effortlessly. And the second thing is, I love the last line, the beat promised to feed her forever. I think it speaks to our own ability to be a self-healer, our own regenerative abilities to transform, to grow, to heal, how we have that power in us. And when we engage in our healing journey, we find out how we are transformative in our own ways and capable of being our own life force.
Ooh. Thank you, Riss. John?
I found this to be a very powerful piece. I was gripped. I was kind of shaken because you tell anyone and I'll kill you, so whispered to a little girl.
Mm.
These are words that you see in movies. These are not words that we can even conceive what it means to hear these words as a child from someone immensely powerful who has total control over us and at the same time is hurting us. And I think the narrator quite powerfully described how this is lodged at the back of the skull like a foreign object, and how it went down the spinal cord and the entire nervous system, and it controlled the whole body. Mm-hmm. And then when the narrator said, until I purged it and I replaced it with the words telling is healing, I found myself thinking, yeah, wow. But was it that easy? And then, of course, there was a description of the arduous, long process of healing, which doesn't come. We make it come. Mm-hmm. We fight it step by step with our nails, with our blood, and with our tears, and it took years. And then, of course, there was the beautiful last paragraph of the voice, which was, it was funny, that fell flat as a pancake. But it was the voice has a life of its own, and that's what stood out to me. That the voice came, and the voice is looking around and looking for help. And I found the heart, the biggest ally, and then beating from the heart. How that gave the voice life and a promise that it will feed her forever. I found that very very optimistic, very positive, and the opposite of how it started, with a threat to a promise.
Mm-hmm.
It was beautiful.
You, John.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much. Thank you both. Thank us all. What's something that stayed with us from our own writing? So let's go the opposite. John, why don't you can you say what stayed with you from your own writing?
Yeah, what stayed with me was giving myself the courage to have a choice of the people I will live with, the companions, the weirdos, the outliers, and just be with them. Give me permission to do that.
What about you, Donna?
Well, I love describing my voice as a pancake flopping into my chest cavity for some reason. I just thought it just popped out, and I loved that I described my voice that way. How about you, Riss?
For me, I love just the phrase quantum leaps. It's just so visceral to me. It's so visual, and I think it shows that we are capable of growth beyond measure than we're capable of dreaming of.
I just want to say thank you to Time to Tell for years of support, for helping me discover myself, for helping me be with others, find community, and make quantum leaps in my own journey.
Good. And Riss?
Donna, what's actually staying with me is the line from your piece, telling is healing. I think that's the whole point of Time to Tell. And I think it could have not been a more potent example of like what this work does, what the circles offer. Like I think you need to publish that. I think it needs to be out there.
Okay. Well, thank you both for joining me today. This has been great fun. And thank you everyone for listening. Goodbye.